Honor Magic 5 Pro Camera Test. Peace be upon you, my dear friends and followers of the channel. How are you today? I hope you are well and in good health. Today with you is a beautiful, new and important video for everyone. This video will be called the Honor Magic 5 Pro Camera Test. But before watching the video, subscribe to the channel and like and share so that it reaches the largest number of people. Now let's watch the video and I hope you like it. We put the Honor Magic 5 Pro through a battery of rigorous XMark camera tests to measure its performance in photo and video quality and zoom from an end-user perspective. In this video I will demonstrate the device's performance in a variety of tests and several common use cases and aim to highlight the most important results of our testing through a snippet of the data captured. Overview. Main camera specifications. Primary camera, 50MP 1/1.12A cubed sensor, f/1.6 lens, autofocus, optical image stabilizer. Ultra-wide camera, 50MP sensor, f/2.0 lens, 122.8 degrees field of view. Telephoto camera, 50MP sensor, f/3.0 lens, 3.5x optical image stabilizer. Video, up to 4K resolution at 60 fps. Pros: excellent zoom performance, wide dynamic range, good details and low noise, fast and accurate autofocus, accurate colors and good exposure in night shots, very good subject isolation in bokeh mode. Cons: limited depth of field for group shots and complex scenes, sometimes displaying an unpleasant texture on the faces. Focus instability in bokeh mode. Skin tones are sometimes unnatural. Limited dynamic range in the preview image compared to the captured image, with a score of 152 points in the XMark camera rating. Honor Magic 5 Pro becomes the new leader in our rating. It also ranked first in the photo rankings, thanks to its outstanding photo results across all lighting levels. In our tests, the Magic 5 Pro particularly shined in friend and family use, using fast shutter speeds to freeze moving objects while capturing excellent detail and keeping noise levels low. With excellent image quality across all ranges, zoom performance was also great, with improvements over the previous model, which was already the best device we've tested for this aspect. The Magic 5 Pro also performed very well in video recording and is currently the best Android device for recording motion pictures. Videos provided accurate exposure in low noise, but while stabilization was generally effective, frame shifting was noticeable when shooting or moving around with the camera. The Magic 5 Pro's camera hardware specifications, apart from the chipset, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 versus Gen 1 on the Magic 4 Ultimate, are very similar to those of last year's Honor Flagship, which was already very impressive. So, the new model's improvements are a great showcase of what's possible with a new chipset, better software, and improved tuning. It's also worth noting that unlike some flagship competitors, the Magic 5 Pro doesn't feature a large 1-inch sensor in the primary camera. However, thanks to a very fast aperture, its light gathering ability is still impressive. Given the outstanding results achieved by Honor in our tests, it makes sense to compare it more closely with some of the other best flagships out there right now. When compared to the Google Pixel 7 Pro, both cameras delivered excellent results and were almost on par in terms of photo and video quality in bright light as well as zoom, near and medium. However, the Magic 5 Pro has an advantage in terms of ultra-wide zoom and low-light telephoto zoom. It also comes with a slightly better video mode and offers more consistent still image performance in indoor and low-light conditions, with faster shutter speeds, excellent HDR processing, and excellent compromise between texture and noise. On the other hand, the Google Pixel 7 Pro has the edge in terms of color, across all camera modules and lighting conditions. For many test attributes, the iPhone 14 Pro and Honor Magic 5 Pro were on a very similar level, but when shooting in low light or under indoor conditions, including with the ultra-wide camera, the Honor was the better choice. It also provided much better telephoto zoom, especially at medium and long range. For dedicated smartphone videographers, the iPhone remains the undisputed first choice. The cameras of the Huawei Mate 50 Pro and Honor Magic 5 Pro were very close overall. In bright outdoor conditions, exposure, color and contrast were balanced in a very similar way. In these conditions, the Huawei's variable aperture allowed for a wider depth of field in group shots and kept more subjects in focus. In indoor and low light, The Mate 50 Pro's more limited light gathering capacity meant that it needed slower shutter speeds than the Honor and was therefore less able to freeze action. The balance between texture and noise wasn't as good as on the Honor either. However, the difference between the two devices was particularly evident in video mode. The Mate 50 Pro is the first Huawei device to come with HDR video. In our tests, this caused some issues, for example, exposure instability and higher noise levels, which had a fairly significant impact on the video score. Friends and family. For the friends and family use case, we evaluated photo and video performance. In our tests, the Honor Magic5 Pro achieved the best result yet for photos and came close to the best for video. In terms of still images, our testers noticed several improvements over the Magic 4 Ultimate from last year. The new model offered better contrast and better skin tone rendering. Additionally, it was better at freezing action. Thanks to faster shutter speeds in daylight and indoor conditions, this made it easy to take photos with movement, for example, children running around, pets or sports. The Honor Magic5 Pro also features an excellent bokeh mode with very good subject isolation. In video mode, we noticed a significant improvement in autofocus in all lighting conditions. Face exposure, contrast, and balance between texture and noise have also been improved, resulting in better overall video quality when recording clips of friends or family. Low lighting. Honor Magic5 Pro set a new standard for low light performance, delivering outstanding photo, zoom and video results. Both low light still photos and videos delivered high levels of detail, good exposure, and beautiful colors. Additionally, the autofocus performed well in portrait mode and the auto exposure system did a good job of retaining some low light ambience while making the scene bright enough not to miss any details. When zooming in low light, Honor came close to the best we've seen. Zoom images provided a good trade-off between exposure, detail and noise, but some texture artifacts could be observed. The Apple iPhone 14 Pro remains the device to beat for low light videos, but the Magic 5 Pro has proven to be a real contender, offering good contrast, good face exposure and effective stabilization. About DxOMark camera tests. DxOMark camera evaluations are conducted in laboratories and in real-world situations using a variety of subjects. Results are based on objective tests, the results of which are calculated directly by measurement software in our laboratory settings, and on perceptual tests, where a sophisticated set of metrics allows a team of image experts to compare aspects of image quality that require human judgment. The smartphone testing involves a team of engineers and technicians for about a week. Image, zoom and video quality are scored separately and then combined into an overall score for comparison between cameras in different devices. For more information about the DxOMark camera protocol, still photography on the Honor Magic 5 Pro is significantly improved over the last generation of Honor devices, with better results for exposure, color, texture, noise and night shots. This includes portrait shots, which in our test showed well-controlled contrast across all types of skin tones and lighting conditions, as well as generally nice skin tones. Some minor white balance and saturation issues were noticeable but within acceptable limits. Shutter lag was set to 0 most of the time, allowing images to be captured almost instantly when the shutter button is pressed. The feature was only available in some high-contrast scenes, which slowed down capture times. In terms of balancing texture preservation and noise reduction, the Honor was one of the best devices tested so far, and image noise levels were generally very low in all lighting conditions. Detail levels were high, but we also noticed some instances of unnatural texture rendering. The excellent trade-off between texture and noise extended to night scenes, which also showed very good exposure and contrast. Exposure was one of the Honor's strengths, thanks to excellent face exposure in portraits, targeted exposure in low light and very good highlight preservation in high contrast scenes. Targeted exposure on faces was well balanced across all skin tones and contrast was noticeably improved compared to the Honor Magic 4 Ultimate. In scenes with very strong contrast, Honor protected highlights very well, although tone compression was visible. But competitors such as the Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max or Huawei Mate 50 Pro offered a better trade-off between contrast and highlight preservation. Lab measurements were consistent with what we saw in the perceptual evaluation of real scenes, with very good results across the board. Contrast, local contrast quality index, is improved compared to Magic 4 Ultimate. Entropy, measured on the illuminated back panel for HDRF and HDR portrait settings, was very good in all lighting conditions. Color rendition was also very good, and again a marked improvement over the Magic 4 Ultimate. Skin tone rendering was better across all skin tones. White balance was also very stable and accurate, but sometimes slight ghosting could be seen. In indoor and low light, colors remained accurate and well saturated, and thanks to improved contrast compared to the Magic 4 Ultimate, saturation and overall color rendition were better too. In a small number of test scenes, our testers noticed some white balance and color rendition issues, such as a lack of saturation in this image, which also had a negative impact on skin tones. This is why Honor's color tone was not at the same level as the best in class for this trait, such as the Google Pixel 7 Pro and Apple iPhone 14 Pro. In our tests, the Magic 5 Pro's autofocus did a good job, but, as in many other high-end devices with large image sensors and fast apertures, depth of field was limited. In group shots and other complex scenes, this means that objects behind or in front of the main subject can be rendered softly. We also noticed that zero shutter lag did not kick in scenes with strong contrast. In this scene, the two subjects were not in the same focus. In this type of situation, the Honor phone's limited depth of field resulted in the background subject being out of focus. The Huawei Mate 50 Pro, which comes with a variable aperture, was able to create a wider depth of field and bring both subjects into focus. Honor Magic 5 Pro images showed high levels of detail in all lighting conditions. This was especially true for landscape and architecture shots. However, our testers noticed some slightly unnatural rendering of textures in a small number of samples, especially backlit portrait shots. Motion blur was fairly well under control, thanks to very fast shutter speeds in daylight and indoor conditions. As a result, the Honor was able to freeze moving objects, as long as the autofocus worked well and the shutter lag was zero. Image noise was very well under control in almost all of our test scenes, including daylight, high contrast and night scenes. And overall the Honor Magic 5 Pro was one of the best devices we've tested for this feature. It was also one of the best in terms of balance between texture and noise. Considering the fast shutter speeds in daylight and indoors, this was an even more impressive feat. Unwanted image artifacts were well controlled on the Magic 5 Pro. The amount of color and some fusion effects were the most noticeable effects. We also noticed some color shifting, at acceptable levels, in scenes with very strong contrast. Honor's bokeh mode was again among the best modes tested so far and on the same level as the Apple iPhone 14 Pro and Huawei Mate 50 Pro, thanks to very accurate depth estimation, detail and good colors. Bokeh image quality remained high in low light. For some distances, the blur applied to the background was stronger than the blur on the iPhone 14 Pro, but this did not affect our rating as both blur levels were acceptable. The preview was good but not on par with the latest iPhones. When capturing high contrast scenes, the iPhone preview image was much closer to the final capture in terms of dynamic range, but the Honor was on par with other Snapdragon-powered devices. Honor also applied a bokeh effect to its preview image when shooting in bokeh mode, but the differences in capture were very noticeable. The Honor Magic 5 Pro offered a significantly improved zoom experience, from ultra-wide zoom to long-range zoom, compared to the Magic 4 Ultimate, making it one of the best zoom devices on the market. With the camera hardware being very similar on the two models, these improvements are mostly due to software and tuning improvements. Honor uses smaller image sensors than some of its competitors but makes up for some of this disadvantage in terms of light gathering capacity with faster apertures. The ultra-wide-angle camera performed very well, providing a wide field of view and very good image quality in all lighting conditions. Fine detail was well rendered in the center of the frame and remained well under control across the frame, although some loss of sharpness was noticeable towards the edges at the widest settings. HDR and dynamic range were on par with the primary camera and noise levels were low. Overall, this makes the Magic 5 Pro's ultra-wide-angle camera the best we've tested yet. The telephoto zoom was also very good across all telephoto settings, especially when shooting in bright light or indoors. In low light, Our testers noticed some unnatural rendering of detail, but overall the Magic 5 Pro came very close to the best in class for telephoto. Honor Magic 4 Ultimate and Vivo X90 Pro Plus. The slight difference from its predecessor is mainly explained by the display of unnatural details in low light. Taking into account the Magic 5 Pro's enhanced video zoom capabilities, the device delivered the most consistent zoom performance overall we've seen to date. The camera provided very good results at the original focal length of the ultra-wide lens, 13mm. And when zoomed in a bit, image quality was great in all lighting conditions, especially in bright light and indoors. In low light, noise levels remained low, but we noticed some unnatural rendering of detail. The wide dynamic range ensured good detail in both light and shadow areas of the frame, and only a few contrast issues were noted. Close-up results were also great, with good detail, low noise, and a wide dynamic range. Image quality in landscape and architecture shots was very good across all telephoto settings. In the lab, indoor and low light samples were very high in detail and showed low noise levels, but the overall result was affected by some minor artifacts. Please note that the samples below are only a small selection, as we test the camera's telephoto capabilities at over 10 different focal lengths, from short telephoto to ultra-long telephoto. The Honor Magic 5 Pro's video mode was tested at 4K and 30 FPS. Our testing found the Honor to be the best Android smartphone for video, and the best device in the SDR video format. However, it couldn't match the leader in its category, the iPhone 14 Pro. Video on the Magic 4 Ultimate was improved across all test themes. Video noise was generally low in most lighting conditions, with accurate subject exposure. Stabilization was an area of a potential for improvement, with frame shift being noticeable when shooting or moving around with the camera. The Honor Magic 5 Pro provided good video exposure in most conditions. Dynamic range was wide in daylight and indoors, capturing good detail in both light and shadow areas of the frame. However, it wasn't quite as wide as on the Apple iPhone 14 Pro, which is the current standard for video dynamic range. Thanks to its outstanding HDR processing capabilities. Exposure transitions on the Honor were generally smooth, but there were often some noticeable steps. Color was generally accurate in indoor and low light conditions, but testers occasionally noticed a slightly cold color cast when recording in daylight and poor weather conditions. Otherwise, color rendition was accurate and skin tones looked nice in most conditions. White balance transitions in variable light were generally smooth, but slight jitter may occur. Video noise was well under control in all lighting conditions. Noise became noticeable mostly in moving scenes or near the edges of the frame. Overall, noise management was one of Honor's strengths in video mode, but it didn't quite match the best-in-class iPhone 14 Pro. Video stabilization was generally effective against camera movement, even walking while recording. However, turning on or panoramic shooting resulted in noticeable frame shift in most lighting conditions. Video artifacts were generally under control, but maze, ripple and fine patterns can often be observed, and the glass in front of the lens tended to generate glare, which was sometimes visible on the faces of subjects in portraits. At the end of the video, I thank you for watching and I hope you liked it, and see you in a new video.